gaming PC with a volume of just 0.2 liters, small enough to slip into your pocket, and it only costs $20. But here's the crazy part. Can a tiny PC like this actually hit 360 FPS in Minecraft? Tiny PCs are everywhere these days, and they look incredible. The problem is, most of them cost a fortune. So I started wondering, can we find the ultimate pocket-sized PC on an unbelievably small budget? Let's find out. The first thing I did was search for mini PC on Google. I wanted to see just how small these things could actually get. And that's when I realized there isn't just one type of mini PC. There are countless designs and sizes out there. The problem was finding one for around 20 bucks. Those are surprisingly hard to come by. I even checked Amazon. Wow, there were some seriously cool options, but every single one was way beyond my budget. So I sorted the results from lowest to highest price. Unfortunately, that didn't help either. When I lowered the price enough to fit my budget, the results turned into a complete mess. Most of them weren't even mini PCs anymore. At that point, it was pretty clear I'd have to look somewhere else. So next, I headed over to eBay. That's where I finally started seeing some promising options. But there was one major problem. Most of the smallest computers I found weren't really usable as regular desktop PCs. Instead, I came across a lot of single-board computers like the BeagleBone Black and the Friendly Elec NanoPi. They're great little boards, but they weren't what I was looking for. Most of them don't even have a native video output, so you can't simply plug in a monitor and use them as a standalone desktop. Then there were boards like the Raspberry Pi Zero 2W. It's incredibly compact, but it's just not powerful enough for the kind of gaming I wanted to do. Just when I was about to give up, I finally found something interesting: a tiny mini PC. The hardware isn't exactly impressive, but it checks all the boxes I was looking for. And for $25, I couldn't resist, so I bought it. Now let's unbox it and see what kind of tiny PC just showed up at my door. This is the Dell Wyse 3040. And honestly, I didn't realize just how tiny it was until I held it in my hand. To put that into perspective, it's about 337 times smaller in volume than the Alienware gaming PC I upgraded a while back. Just like I said earlier, it's small enough to slip right into your pocket. Now that we've seen just how ridiculously compact this thing is, it's time to find out if it actually works. Unfortunately, the seller didn't include a power adapter. I'm guessing that's one of the reasons I was able to get it so cheap. Luckily, I already had a compatible 24-watt power supply, so let's see if this thing still has a pulse. Come on, nothing. No power light, no fan noise. Absolutely no sign of life. Since I bought it used, there was no manual or anything to help me troubleshoot, so I guess it's time to start taking it apart. It actually took me way longer than I'd like to admit just to get the case open. But once I figured it out, it was surprisingly simple. Inside, there's only a single circuit board. The CPU, RAM, and onboard storage are all integrated directly onto it. One downside, though, is that you can't upgrade the storage directly on this machine. At first, I thought this slot was for an SSD, but I was wrong. It's actually an M2 slot for the Wi-Fi card, not for storage. It also comes with a surprisingly good selection of ports. Pretty much everything you'd expect from a regular desktop PC. So now, let's see if we can figure out why it refuses to turn on. Alright, what if I try powering it on without the case installed? There we go, we've got a display. Well, that's a good sign. Now let's put everything back together and see if it still works once it's fully assembled. No way. It powered on instantly. Apparently, all it needed was to be taken apart and put back together. I'll take that as a win. Wait a second. I can't believe it. This thing actually came with Windows 10 pre-installed. Alright, let's see what kind of hardware we're working with. If you looked closely at the sticker on the outside, you've probably already guessed the processor. That's right. It's powered by an Intel Atom X5Z 8350, a quad-core, quad-thread chip. Sounds decent on paper, until you see the clock speed. It tops out at just 1.44 GHz, and in single-core benchmarks, it scores only around 60 points. Yeah, that's pretty rough. But raw performance was never the goal of this processor. Its biggest strength is efficiency. Under load, it only draws around 2 watts of power, and when it's sitting idle, it draws only about 0.9 watts of power. That's so little that Dell didn't even need to put a fan inside. It stays incredibly cool with passive cooling alone. As for the rest of the specs, it comes with just 2 GB of DDR3 RAM and 16 GB of onboard storage. Looking at these specs, I'm honestly a little worried about throwing modern games at this thing. Next, I wanted to see how it handled something simple: watching YouTube. Oh my god, this thing is painfully slow. The video stutters so badly that I can practically count the frames one by one. I'm guessing it's running at around 3 frames per second, and that's with the video set to just 480p. Unfortunately, that wasn't even the biggest problem. I couldn't install any games in the first place. This machine is running Windows 10 IoT Enterprise LTSC, a stripped-down version of Windows that doesn't include the Microsoft Store. Without it, and without the proper licensing, I couldn't download games the normal way, so instead I downloaded them directly from the official website. But then I ran into another major obstacle. After installing Windows, there were only 21 megabytes of free storage left. 21 megabytes. That's not even enough space for a single screenshot. And since the onboard storage can't be upgraded, I had no choice but to plug in a USB drive and install the game there instead. Once everything finished installing, it was finally time to launch the game. Damn, it crashed immediately. After digging around a bit, it became pretty obvious what was going on. The system was missing almost all of its graphics drivers. This processor is supposed to have an integrated GPU, Intel HD Graphics 400, but no matter what I tried, Windows refused to install the driver. I spent quite a while searching for different solutions, but every lad ended the same way. Nothing worked. At that point, I realized there was really only one option left. It's time to try a completely different operating system. After doing some research, I decided to give Linux a try. More specifically, I went with Ubuntu. It's known for being an incredibly lightweight Linux distribution that's designed to use as few system resources as possible. This was actually my first time using a Linux distro like this, so I definitely had a bit of a learning curve. After spending about 2 hours getting everything installed and configured, it was finally ready. And honestly, my first impression was surprisingly positive. The whole system feels much more responsive than it did on Windows. Resource usage is impressively low too. At idle, the system is using only about 492 megabytes of RAM, and CPU usage barely moves. So naturally, the first thing I wanted to test was YouTube. Starting at 480p, the video played far more smoothly than it ever did on Windows. Then I pushed it up to 720p, and to my surprise, this tiny PC was still able to play it smoothly. That's a massive improvement. What surprised me even more was how well Ubuntu handled the integrated graphics. Unlike Windows, where I spent hours fighting with missing drivers, Linux recognized the integrated GPU almost immediately. Now, for the part I've been waiting for, gaming. The first challenge was simply getting the game installed. If you've never used Linux before, the installation process can be a bit intimidating. There were definitely a few hurdles along the way, but eventually, I got everything working. Now let's see if it actually launches. No way, bro, we're in! The game finally started. The only downside is that loading into the world takes a long time, but once everything finished loading, I was honestly surprised. The frame rate hovered around 20 to 25 frames per second. That's not bad at all for hardware this small. The problem was consistency. Every now and then the FPS would suddenly tank, even dropping to 1 FPS while new chunks were loading. So the next step was obvious. I lowered every graphics setting I could. And wow, I wasn't expecting that much of a difference. Performance improved dramatically. Now the frame rate was hovering around 100 frames per second. Once the world had fully loaded and all the chunks were cached, the highest frame rate I recorded was 194 frames per second. At this point, I was running out of ideas for squeezing out more performance. So I decided to try something else. I installed Legacy Launcher and loaded the exact same version of Minecraft again. After spending some more time tweaking every setting I could find, the frame rate climbed to around 200 frames per second. It's not a huge jump over before, but every extra frame gets me one step closer to my original goal. The scary part is, I'm still nowhere near my goal. I'm still about 160 frames per second short. The problem is, I'd already tried almost everything I knew. I switched to a lightweight operating system. I turned every in-game setting down to the absolute minimum. And honestly, I was running out of ideas. There's only so much software optimization can do when the hardware itself is this limited. So I decided to ask for a little help, ChatGPT. It suggested a few Linux tweaks that might squeeze a bit more performance out of the system. The first recommendation was to switch the CPU to performance mode, preventing it from aggressively downclocking while gaming. That involved running a few terminal commands. So I followed the instructions and gave it a try. The second tweak was to disable the desktop compositor. In theory, that should reduce rendering overhead, lower input latency, and maybe even give me a small FPS boost. They're simple changes, but on hardware this slow, even a tiny improvement could make a noticeable difference. So, let's see if they actually worked. Alright, this time I'm launching the game with game mode enabled. Hold on, it already feels smoother. Alright, let's see what kind of FPS we're getting now. Oh my god, 240 frames per second. I honestly wasn't expecting that. In a few scenes, it even spikes all the way up to 275 frames per second. While exploring the forest, the average frame rate stays around 150 frames per second, which is a huge improvement over where we started. Then I remembered one more trick. Running the game in a smaller window can sometimes improve performance on low-end hardware, so I gave it a try. This is insane. The frame rate jumped all the way to 303 frames per second. I honestly can't believe I managed to squeeze this much performance out of such an underpowered little PC. At this point, this is probably the most optimized setup I can come up with, but I'm still not at my goal. So there's one last thing I want to try. I'm going back to Minecraft 1.8.9, this time with a few modern performance mods installed. Let's see if that's enough to finally push this tiny PC all the way to my target. Oh no, not only did the FPS not improve, it actually got quite a bit worse than the previous test. During normal gameplay, the frame rate hovered around 100 frames per second. Even after shrinking the game window again, the highest I could get was around 200 frames per second. At this point, I think I've pushed this little PC as far as it can reasonably go. I don't think there's anything else I can do to squeeze out more performance. But if you have any ideas or know of another optimization I should try, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to see if we can push this tiny PC even further.